Before we get going on today's interview, if you're not already reading Must Read Alaska every day, you're missing half the story. Must Read Alaska is where Alaskans go to find out what's actually happening in this state: the politics, the policy, the people, without the spin you get from the legacy press. Just straight talk, Alaska first. You can support Must Read Alaska with a subscription. Use the code THESOCIAL10 at checkout, and you'll take 10% off our In for News or All In annual plans. That's THESOCIAL10, the social 10. Go to mustreadalaska.com, hit subscribe on your podcast app, and keep Alaska's most trusted independent news source running.
Welcome to The Social, Must Read Alaska's segment on the events, communities, and conversations that make this state worth living in. I am Sonia, your host for today, and more Alaskans are growing their food, raising their own animals, and learning to preserve and live closer to the land. And it's not a trend, it's a mindset shift. And this Memorial Day weekend, that mindset is gathering in one place, Big Lake, for the third annual Alaska Homestead Expo and Marketplace. Joining me today is Tandy Hogate, host of the Sustainable Alaska podcast and co-founder of Common Grounds Alaska, the teaching farm stand behind the whole thing. Tandy, welcome to the Must Read Alaska show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
Awesome. For Must Read Alaska readers or podcast listeners who haven't come across your podcast or haven't visited Common Ground before, can you give us like the elevator pitch of what you're building out at Big Lake?
Absolutely. So, our farm name is Common Ground Alaska, and we call ourselves a teaching farmstead that feeds Alaskans. So, basically, we have a U-pick farm and nursery. And so when people come out here in the summertime, they get to pick berries and then take them home and do what they want with them. And we also have a plant nursery. So for we grow plants that are hardy to Alaska. Most of them originate right here on the farm. And so food security is obviously very important to us. And then we also love to teach because we feel like we can give you all the tools, but if we don't show you how to use them, or if you don't know how to use them, then they're not gonna be effective. So we love to teach as well. So we offer a multitude of classes here on the farm, and then our big kind of our big thing that we do is the Alaska Homestead Expo and Marketplace, and this is our third year for that.
Awesome. And a few years ago, you started the Sustainable Alaska podcast to, from my understanding, take these conversations wider. Can you tell us a little more about the podcast?
That's right. We did. So I think everything that we do kind of starts is kind of centric to the farm. So I have a lot of conversations with, especially with our U-Pick customers, and they come in and they pick, and we're having conversations, and a lot of times, I'll get the same question over and over and over. And so I thought, well, I could do a blog post, which is fun, and I do those. But what's a more effective way to get the word out? Even for things like, someone saying, how do I plant these? But they might almost also be asking, like, what are some preservation ideas for honeyberries? Like, they don't even know what to do with a honeyberry and how to preserve it. And so that's kind of where the podcast kicked in. It was a way to kind of get the word out to people, and we've had so much fun with the podcast. And we actually have a magazine by the same name, Sustainable Alaska Magazine. So we just kind of rabbit trail and do all the things.
That's awesome. I think people are hungry, no pun intended, for practical, real information about really living more self-sufficiently. So that's awesome to hear that you guys are providing all that information. And I guess let's talk about that. I think that all of the things you just mentioned, they connect to something our readers think about a lot, which is that real awakening is happening in Alaska and really nationally around food security, supply chain, like vulnerability. What happens if there's a break in that supply chain? Self-reliance. We care deeply about our ability to take care of ourselves here in Alaska. How do you see the homesteading movement fitting into that bigger picture as you talk and teach and kind of help support that community?
I love this question. This is a fun question, and I will try to not talk all day about it. So, so basically, I think there's two components. When you think of someone living the homestead lifestyle, you think of someone who's very self-sufficient. That's kind of usually the first thought that goes through someone's mind. And there's definitely something to that. It's a lot of work, and the work falls directly on you. And so, for us, we're trying to personally make our farm a lot more sustainable so that we can feed our family, which is crazy important. But on top of that, it's the community aspect. And so this is where I always land on this. I think it's super important that you grow your own, but it's also super important that you're able to help provide for your community too. And it all boils down to the fact that well, I love to eat for one. And
Don't
so
we all?
yeah, and so several years ago, we're 25 years, we're originally from Oregon. We've been up here for 25 years. So, Alaska is definitely in our blood, but I remember feeling a sense of vulnerability when I heard that there something like 97% of our food is imported. And I don't know what that number is. I think it fluctuates by a few percent, but it's a pretty high number. And I just remember thinking at that time, man, what if something happened within that chain? And I mean, I don't think it's going to take a zombie apocalypse or whatever the big thing is that people are waiting for. It's the small things like when a barge breaks down and suddenly Fred Meyer doesn't have milk for a week, or whatever that might be. Um, when we it doesn't cause panic in me at all because I don't ever go to the grocery store, but I don't know what's going on there, but or I try not, I go as little as possible, but I, there's just a vulnerability for Alaskans in general, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I think rather than sit in that I almost victim mentality of, oh no, that's a bummer, but what else can we do? There's definitely a proactive approach that can be taken, and whether you live in an apartment or you own several acres, or it doesn't matter. There's definitely a proactive approach, and so that's kind of where that started in me anyway.
No, that's awesome. And I think for Alaskans historically, right, like we've known better than this. We had the skills, we had that knowledge on how to be a little bit more prepared for those interruptions or
Hmm.
vulnerabilities. And I think we're just working to get them back. And that mindset shift that I mentioned earlier, I think I'm seeing it, and I'm sure others can resonate with that. I saw on the list you had David Stelzer from Azure Standard as one of the keynote speakers coming this year's conference. And Azure is a huge name in the like buy local natural food movement. What does he bring into the conversations, and kind of how does that tie to your goal for the conference this year?
I think that's an awesome question because there it might I've actually had a couple people ask that if you're so focused on Alaskans growing food for Alaskans, then why are you bringing up people from outside, especially food producers from outside, right? Like a major um like you said, he's a bridge between it's so basically I love, for one thing, David Stelzer is very much he's a brilliant, brilliant man.
Mhm.
And I don't know his history. I don't know his background. I did work for Azure Standard years and years ago for a few years. And what I saw with David was for every single thing that people would tell him you can't, those were the things that he would say, I'm pretty sure we can. And then he'd find a way to it. He wasn't just pie in the sky. Oh, yes, we can. He put feet to all the things that he tried to do. He is very, very, very in tuned with food security and with our current food system nationwide, even when you look at like the standard American diet versus what a lot of, if you want to call us crunchy people, there's like that there's a pretty big gap between the two. And he really is, he's just good at educating, but he's also very passionate. And when you have someone who's passionate about something, you can't help but get excited, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, just I think the whole business model is so focused on community with having the members of community being the pickup locations and helping coordinate all that.
So,
So I think that,
yes. Oh, I want to talk about that for just a second because it makes me so excited. So, the difference between I could go to the grocery store and I might see someone I know, especially, in Big Lake at I'm going to run into somebody at Three Bears, but or I can go to my drop where I pick up my Azure Standard stuff and um, you know, I run into all sort of my friends. That's where my friends are. And we're talking about, when someone's bringing out three big boxes of peaches, it's like, oh, what are you going to do with your peaches? But then there's also that sense of security that David has hired a very good team of people to watch over the food. So I know that it doesn't just say organic; it actually is grown in a way that is sustainable. I know that the ingredients are good for us. I know that, every little thing has been checked. So yes, I love the whole drop idea. I love meeting with the community. So although that portion of my groceries comes from out of state, we're still building community because we're meeting together to pick up our groceries every other week.
yeah, I love that idea. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the event itself because I know that's the big topic of our conversation. Third annual Big Lake Lions Club Memorial Day weekend, primarily the Friday and Saturday. What's new this year that people should know about?
Yeah, so several things are new this year. For one thing, we have gone hybrid. That's probably our biggest change. So typically, it's kind of all or nothing. You come to the expo, or you buy the recordings, or you can come and buy the recordings. But there was never an option to participate if you couldn't be there that weekend. And I realize that's hard for people because not everyone can devote an entire weekend, right? And so we had to get kind of creative, but we came up with a way to make it so that we can live stream our classes that are taking place on Friday and Saturday, so someone can watch from anywhere. But we're also recording those, so if someone can only watch part of them, but they can't watch them all, that's okay because you're going to get the recording. And then we also are doing a lot more interactive type things. So this year, for the past 2 years, we've brought up hand-hewn farms. They would take a pig from um, just freshly passed away, however I'm supposed to say that delicately on a podcast. Um, and they would process the whole thing. So in that weekend, you would learn all the cuts of pork, how to process it. You'd learn how to make lard, how to make, I don't know, all the things. So this year we're doing that, but with a beef. So last weekend we had a class here on the farm where we actually talked about the humane slaughter and the people, anybody that has tickets to the expo was actually invited to see that. And it's hard. It's hard to watch the life of an animal be taken. But I think there's something to that. When you go to the grocery store and buy chicken, sometimes you don't think about it's the life of an animal. So we want to offer that because we want people to realize. We also know that it's daunting when you start growing animals, you get this cute little pig or this cute little calf or these cute little chicks, and you're not thinking about the fact that at some point you're gonna have to take this thing's life. So it's definitely, I think it's an education that needs to happen so that people not only know what they're doing and they can do it with confidence and they can do it as humanely as possible. So we have that going on. And the other part that's fun. So that now the beef is dead and he's hanging. He has to hang for a week. And then next weekend we're Graham Oakes is who's doing it. He's a local mobile processor, and he's gonna cut it up. And he is brilliant when it comes to all the different cuts. And he's gonna show how to do all the different things that I can't even name because it's super crazy the knowledge he has. Um, so that's something that's neat. We also have, and you and I don't think talked about this already, but on Thursday, the day before the expo, we're actually offering an intensive. We have a veterinarian who's coming up who wants to, he asked if he could teach a class that is a super deep dive. He could have the whole day with people. And this is for people who really want to leave the majority of the medical care for their animals on the farm. So they want to learn how to take care of their animals medically themselves, whether it would be a sickness or a wound. things like that. And because what he's seeing is there's so many people getting into having animals that a lot of times he's called out to calls where someone really could have, if they'd had just a little knowledge, they could have solved it. They could have, the animal wouldn't have suffered near as long because it takes them a while to get out there, right?
Hmm.
And the expense of a vet visit. And then also it gives people confidence to know how to take care of their animals. And so that's the whole point of his intensive. So that's the day before.
Awesome.
And that's new. And then another thing that's new is on Sunday, we always get together for church. We always have an amazing bluegrass band lead worship. But this year, church is on the farm. So on Sunday morning, people can come out here. They have to bring their own chairs because we don't have enough chairs here on the farm. They have to bring their own chairs and bring a potluck dish. And we're going to worship here on the farm. And then we're going to have lunch together after. And then that will kind of be the end. But what an awesome end to, and this also, I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to say it, but this is our final expo because we're being called to something different. So, what a great end because we're all going to be together. We're going to be eating food and just kind of giving this kind of a final send off in this community aspect. So I am so incredibly excited for this expo.
Wow, no, that sounds amazing. I think that connection to your food that you're talking about, I think everybody should know where their food comes from. And then I don't think anything speaks and says more of community than bring your own chairs. We don't have enough. Um,
That's right.
but for those folks that maybe have not been to one of the prior conferences and expos, can you walk me through like what a Friday would look like for someone who is showing up in person?
Absolutely. So, and this year it is a little different. So even if they have been before, it's going to look a little different. We always have several classes going on simultaneously. So this year we have three. We only have three. Usually we have five or six going on at the same time. This year we have three going on simultaneously. So, in the main classroom, we're going to have speakers, and those speakers include people like Doc Jones. He's an herbalist based out of northern Idaho, who is not only is he crazy smart, he's also a veterinarian. So
Mhm.
he's a scientist for sure. Um, but he's crazy smart, and he is such a great speaker, and he's really funny. So,
Awesome.
and I almost hesitate to say he's funny because then people are like, well, maybe he's not taking it serious. He's very serious, and you're going to learn a lot, but it's not that super intense, like leave with a headache. It's that you kind of leave lighthearted thinking, I can do this, and I'm not going to make that mistake he made, you know? So, he's just a really neat guy. So, um, we have David Stelzer. He's talking about things like food as medicine. And we have Doc Tom Roscoe. He is our doctor who's doing our veterinarian who's doing the intensive on Thursday. He's doing some small breakout classes too. So if you don't really want the intensive, if you just have cattle, you can attend the cattle one. If you just have chickens, you can attend the chicken one. They're not quite the deep dive that intensive is the day before.
Hmm.
Josh and Carolyn Thomas from Homesteading Family and School of Traditional Skills. They're gonna just share all their wisdom. It's insane. They have done the work and love to share. So also on Friday, that is our what we're calling our door prize day. So if you attend the marketplace, which if you have an expo ticket, you're automatically entered into all of these, but you can obviously attend the marketplace, but that's our vendor hall. If you attend the marketplace, then you can be in a drawing to win a grain maker mill and some and 100 pounds of grain. So it's like a $750 value. We're going to give away that 1 hour. We're going to give away a quarter of our beef that we're doing. That's $1,000 value. You can just win that
Wow.
just with your $5 ticket for the marketplace, or obviously your ticket for attending the expo. Um, there's some other prizes that I can't think of, but they're all just incredible. And so that's Friday. And then Saturday, some of the highlights are Troy Lakey from ACDC Electrical is going to be talking about living off grid. Um, and he's not just talking about it, he has a really cool demonstration. This guy has put
Oh,
so much work into what he's doing. Whether you just want a secondary, like you just need some kind of system for when the power goes out, because we do get those extended power outages when wind storms and all the, natural things that happen here. Or if you want to live off grid, he and his assistant are incredible, and that's going to be a lot of fun. There's yeah, so there's a lot of things going on. Sorry, I think I got a little bit off track, but
Oh,
then
no.
I
Please
get a little
highlight,
excited.
please share. It's awesome to see you get this excited about what you're doing. And I think that's the whole point of sharing it with others.
Well, thank you. Then Saturday after when the vendor hall closes and we'll send all the vendors home, and then that evening is when we all gather as a community, and that would be all of the people who have live tickets. We're going to gather as a community, and the Lazy Mountain Pickers, they're a dulcimer band. They're opening
Ooh.
for us. I know, isn't that fun? And then Josh and Carolyn Thomas are going to give their keynote, and their keynote is I couldn't be more excited about it. As a matter of fact, when I originally made the schedule, I was so excited about this that I put it in there twice, not on purpose, but I was like, I needed to so make sure it didn't get missed that somebody said, "Did you really mean for them to do this twice?" I was like, man, shoot, no, but um, so
Maybe.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Maybe sometimes when you hear something twice, but it's called The Seasoned Homestead: Why Families Thrive When They Live by the Calendar and Not the Clock. And what drew me to that was when we were putting all this together, it was the middle of winter, and this was a crazy hard winter for so many people. And so the idea of thriving in the middle of February when I'm sick of winter, it's way more cold than it's supposed to be. The wind will not stop. It feels like summer is, light years away. And so I just love that it felt like a breath of fresh air to me. So I hope that's just the title. I hope that helps people feel like, okay, they want to hear it. They want to be encouraged. So, and then of course we talked about church the next day. So, um, that's kind of a play by play of how it's gonna, of how the day. Oh, but I did forget to mention, sorry, Saturday is demonstration day for the
Mm-hmm.
marketplace. So Friday we're doing all the door prizes. Saturday we have Ilya Sama from Viking Ironworks. He is spinning from 10 to 4. He's doing like this live forged in fire demonstration. So for anybody that loves to watch forging and working with metal, he's going to be there all day. And so my thought is, sometimes, at least for my husband, I can drag him to things like this, but then I have to kind of hurry because he really doesn't enjoy, the whole shopping experience. He's just not a shopping kind of guy. But I love vendor halls. And so he would be super excited to be watching this Forged in Fire demonstration, and then I can shop to my heart's content. So
I mean, fire. I think you probably had most men at fire.
that's right. That's right. No, and Ilya is just a great guy, and he's a lot of fun. So that demonstration is gonna be really cool.
And now, a word about our sponsor. Alaskans know better than anyone, clean water isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. We've had a big Berkey water filter in our home for over 10 years, and it's one of the best investments we've ever made. No electricity, no plumbing, no problem. Berkey's gravity-fed filtration removes hundreds of contaminants, whether you're at home, off-grid, or prepping for whatever comes next. Must Read Alaska listeners get 10% off site-wide at bigberkeywaterfilters.com using the code MRAC10 at checkout. That's bigberkeywaterfilters.com, code MRAK10. Don't wait until you need it.
No, I mean, that sounds like a couple of very full and exciting days, especially for those folks that are able to make it in person. And yeah, I'm excited for the marketplace myself personally. And I think my husband's excited for the marketplace too, although he'll enjoy the fire. Um, Thank you for highlighting a couple of the speakers, kind of spotlighting those. What would you, I guess, say for those that are just starting to think about these things and maybe are not planning on butchering a cow or a pig just yet? Like, what would be a gateway topic that would help somebody just learning about homesteading or maybe just interested about it? Like, it's their first time.
I love this question because that's kind of what the expo is we want to cover both. We want to cover the people who are just kind of getting into this world, and we also want to help people who are a little deeper going, oh my gosh, now what?
Mhm.
Now I have there's the people who are just getting the chickens. What do I just do with the chickens? And so, but then there's the people with the
Guilty.
chickens. Well, yeah, exactly. And then there's the ones with the chickens going, oh no, how do I take this thing's life? Or how do I even how do they lay eggs in the winter? Whatever the question is. So we have several 101 type classes, which would be Carolyn Thomas is doing one on food preservation, just super simple secrets to efficient pantry building. It's not, um, you're not learning to can in this class. You're not learning, but you're learning how to build your pantry. And what classes like this do oftentimes is they spark an interest. So someone will hear, oh, now that's something I can do. And then they want to run with it. And that's exactly the whole point is just that kind of 101, where do I start? And then you get the right class, you hear the right words, and suddenly you're inspired and you can move forward. So um, and a couple other classes that I kind of wanted to highlight if I can, because I get, like you said, I get excited. Jonas Musgrave is a local chicken producer, and he is actually doing a class on meat chickens. And if you've never raised meat chickens before, it's there's a lot more to it than you would think. It's more than just having a fence and throwing feed at them for 12 weeks, or depending on what kind of chicken you have. I mean, it all even comes down to what kind of chicken do you raise. Some people do Cornish cross, some people do Freedom Rangers, and people are pretty opinionated, whichever one they do. So, how do you pick whose opinion is right, right? So, but Jonas isn't going into all that. What he's going into is how do you know if your chickens are on track and healthy, and how do you produce a bird that's going to feed your family and nourish your family in the end? So he's bringing birds that are at all different stages, and he's
Oh,
going to show
cool.
you what to look for. This shows that it's on track. This is how you know if maybe your birds are a little thin and you need to give them, maybe they need more food, or whatever I don't know because I've not heard his class, but this was kind of what he was sharing. So that's going to be really cool. We have Patrice Hale, who I don't even know. She came out of nowhere. She did this post and said, "You're not going to believe what I did," in a foraging group, and said, I've made a sourdough bread from items that I forage here in the Matsu Valley, items 100% foraged items. I don't even remember
Wow.
what those things are because I was so excited reading the post that I immediately was messaging her and I was like, we need you. So she is doing, it's called, man, I can't remember the name of her class, but do you know?
Wild Northern Sourdough, foraged ingredients for bread. Is that the one?
That's the one. Yeah. So, anyway, who wouldn't want to hear that class? Like, it's totally ingredients that you can go out and forage, isn't going to cost you a penny. And think of the nutrient density in that. It's right in your
Oh
backyard.
man, I'm
So,
hooked. I'm gonna
I
have to go to
know.
that one now.
I know. How do you choose? And then I also think it's fun. Wendy Anslotty, who is another teacher she does not do this for these people are not, speakers that you can hire on a website. These are folks, these are Alaskans living this life who just want to share how. And Wendy she's Italian, and she's doing a class on like old world Italian pasta, how to make it. And it's a demonstration class. You get to
Ooh.
kind of be there, you get to watch it. She's going to show you how to do it, what ingredients to use, how to know when it's right, when it's not right, all the things. So, and that's the tiniest little glimpse, but I could go on, but I probably shouldn't because.
No, I mean, it sounds like, right, like you guys are covering homesteading, gardening, farming, food preservation, like, and all of it through this Alaska lens, which I think is really cool. Because a lot of
Right.
times, I'll turn to YouTube for something and I'm like, oh, that sounds great for somewhere where it's much warmer or the growing season's much longer. I dabble in gardening. I'm, like I said, I'm excited to go and learn myself. But I think it's really nice when you can put it in perspective through that Alaska lens and really make it hit home and show what works, true and tested.
I agree. I agree. And they'll share with so maybe you can be a little bit ahead because they'll share the mistakes and the
Yeah.
whoops.
That's perfect. I love learning through other people's mistakes, not always my own.
Exactly. I'm good at that too, but
Yes, well, aren't we all? No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing the overview. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting sessions, and it covers such a broad range of interests and knowledge levels. So I think it's gonna be great. Um, but I'll turn this a little bit and ask you something a little bit more direct. Most of Must Read Alaska's like readership is pretty politically engaged and a lot of times conservative leaning, and they care about Alaska's sovereignty and independence. There's a direct tie to kind of that homesteading world when you start thinking about, the idea that individuals and families should have the capacity to take care of themselves. And so in your opinion, is homesteading like a political identity or is it something broader?
It's something so much bigger. You're not probably going to meet a less political person than me because not that I don't care. And you could certainly bring up certain topics and get me fired up, um, but I just want to build community, and I think that's what it's all about. I've shared this story a couple times. I sometimes I feel like so I share the story freely and people can take it as they do. We had one year, our farm is very busy in the summer. So our parking lot fills up, we flow out onto the road. Don't tell the borough, we flow out onto the road. We it's our secret. Um, and one year I had to walk, I don't even remember what I had to walk up for, but I had to go through the parking lot. And as I was walking back, right next to our gate was two cars parked side by side. And I remember that one had an Obama sticker and one had a sticker of whoever was running against him. That's how not political I am. These two cars were parked side by side in my parking lot, and I thought, and there's no fighting in my. Everybody was getting along great in the orchard, and I thought, okay, this is what it's about. I realize politics are very, very, very important. They are super important. And I appreciate people who are willing to dive in with both feet and try and figure things out and do what's best for their people. More power to them. That is not what God's called me to. And so, but knowing that people can come into our farm and they can pick or they can come to our expo or they can come to my cheese classes and they can learn how to do a skill that's going to not only benefit their family, but it's going to benefit their community or whoever their little world is. Um, that's what we're here for. The politicians can figure the political stuff out, as far as I'm concerned. I'm just a farmer. And so I think that the idea of homesteading is so much bigger because, like I said, it starts out with a self-sufficiency mindset, um, but it really builds to community. And once you've kind of built your community in a way that you can work together in whatever capacity that looks like, I think that's when we've really that's when we've won.
No, I think, yeah, community oriented life, because you can't do it alone. That's really what it's all about. And I think we've gotten a little soft on that, and now
Yeah.
people seem to be reclaiming it. So I think that's great that we can disagree but respect each other and focus on what's important.
And still learn to make cheese together. Like
Yeah,
it's the coolest
making
thing.
cheese, that's the important part.
That's right. Make the dang
Uh,
cheese.
no, I think it's great when you can bring people together, and I think in today's day and age, when everything can be polarizing, it's great to see places where people can do that.
Yeah.
I also do think like your podcast, there is some episodes that I know I've listened to where like you did the cottage food law episode. I think it was recent. That there's a great example of where that policy and like kind of practical living intersects. And sometimes people
Mhm.
don't think about the politics that's going on in the background to allow them to do the small business or farm to table kind of different things that we see at farmers markets. There's a lot more going on in the background too, and it's kind of a cool little intersection and connection there.
It is. It absolutely is.
But I mean, we're less than a week out from the expo. So give people everything they need to know to take action right now. If they're hooked, if they're interested now that they know all the classes and demonstrations and vendors that are coming, what do they need to do?
So, first of all, there's we have this, but wait, there's more, right? Um, so you would just go to our website, commongroundalaska.com, and then there's a button for the expo, and then that's going to give you the majority of what you need to know about the expo. It's going to give you the schedule for Friday. It's going to give you the schedule for Saturday. We're adding a button today because I didn't realize it was missing for Doc Tom's intensive. So if you wanted to just attend intensive, you can do that, or you can do both. It doesn't matter. But here's what we've done. because we had to revamp the expo a little bit, and because I say only, there's only 3 classes going on, and it's only 2 days of teaching, and then we have our day of church. So the problem is we had 65 classes left over when we condensed everything to 2 days, and basically 2 classrooms plus the cow butchering. Um, we had 65 classes left over. So I reached out to our teachers and asked if they would mind teaching throughout the summer. So they're actually going to be, we have those 65 classes are actually going to be live streamed by Zoom. The teacher is there. So it's not a replay where you just kind of watch like YouTube and it's uninteractive. These are still interactive classes, even though we're not meeting for those in person. So, and those are all included in everybody's ticket, whether you buy a virtual ticket or the in-person hybrid ticket. So not only do you get the full weekend of teaching, you get these 65 classes all summer long. They're on Monday and Thursday evenings, and occasional Saturday. I think there's one like Tuesday morning because that was where they had to fit it in. I can't remember, but when you go to commongroundalaska.com and then hit the expo button, and that'll take you to that page, and it'll give you all the links for all the schedules. But um, so basically, it's the May 22nd through 23rd. It is Memorial Weekend. Um, it's at the Big Lake Lions Club, also called the Big Lake Rec Center because the borough did just buy the Lions Club, and so they're kind of doing that name change. The
Hmm.
doors open at 9 a.m. both days. Um, you can um, you can go to our website. There is another just ticketing page that you can go to, but that's linked on our website. I think that's the easiest thing. The in-person tickets are $85. If you want to attend for the weekend, you attend in person. You can come to classes both days, plus you can attend church, and then you get all those summer sessions too. And you're going to get all the recordings for everything. So it's $85 for more than 85 classes. That's not half bad.
Wow.
Or if you want to do all virtual and you never want to actually come to a class, but that means you can't come to any of them. You would have to watch all online. Those are 45. So that's cool because it opens it up to the whole entire state. And with gas prices being the way they are and whatever, it makes it so that you're not having to drive out to Big Lake. So, um,
That's that's awesome.
yeah,
Sounds like it's not just a conference, it's a whole season of learning.
that's
And
what
it's
we're trying.
might be easier to adjust a little bit at a time than trying to just cram them all in over a weekend. So that's great to have those options. And then maybe you can be picky about which classes you do virtually
That's
join.
right.
But I love that. I'm excited. I saw the list of classes and then the schedule outline, and I'm planning to dial into some for sure.
Good
Um,
deal. We
well,
do have
thank
the
you.
marketplace too that I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention, and those tickets are only $5. So,
So yeah, thank you for all those details. I think
yeah,
sounds like if you go to commongroundsalaska.com, you'll get all the details and tickets and agenda and everything else. And then for those folks that might be interested in your podcast, do you want to do a little plug for your podcast as well?
sure. So the podcast is the Sustainable Alaska podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have our website, commongroundalaska.com. We're on social media as Common Ground Alaska Farmstead. And then we do have our magazine too, which is also Sustainable Alaska. It's written 100% by Alaskans. So that's
Awesome.
that's about it. That's all we do.
Awesome. Well, that's Tandy Hogate from Common Ground, Alaska. The 2026 Alaska Homestead Expo and Marketplace is Memorial Day weekend, May 22nd and 23rd at Big Lake Lion Club or Rec Center. Tickets and details are going to be in the show notes as well. I'm Sonia. This is The Social on Must Read Alaska Show. We'll see you next time.